scarred. Judges grinning, deals in shadows locked. Caseworkers speaking truth they've mocked. Gunning young for justice, rage intense, bringing kids home from this broken fence. Corruption weighs heavy, laws collapse. Kids go missing behind their maps. CPS stealing kids, no trace. Lies build walls, the truth they erase. Gunners howl, cuts through the air. He won't stop midnight, he'll get there. Dark hallways where the guilty play. Secrets hiding, hope fades away. A man with fire, voice like a storm. Breaking chains, reform, transform. Gunning on for justice, rage intense. Bringing kids home from this broken fence. Corruption weighs heavy, laws collapse. Kids go missing behind their maps. Family shattered, cries dulled by fights. CPS takes them in the dead of night. But Gunner speaks of brighter days, cut through the lies, light ablaze. Family shattered, cries dulled by fights. CPS takes them in the dead of night. But Gunner speaks of brighter days, cut through the lies, light ablaze.
Hey look, this for every mama got her baby snatched on some bogus shit. For every pops they locked out the crib like he ain't blood. CPS, y'all been eating off pain for too long. We know what you on, but now it's war, this gunning foe, CPS. Kick doors, no warrants, they taking our seeds. Say it's neglect, but they planting they greed. Feds in they pocket, judge got a fee. Run it like a business, adoption spree. Contracts overseas, got partners in France. But shorty from Shy, he ain't get a chance. Mama work 2 jobs, daddy do right, but they still snatch his baby in the middle of the night. Fuck CPS, they ain't saving shit. Just a system full of snakes getting rich off kids. We see through the cap, we done taken the hit. Now it's Suffer Davis popping and we loaded the clip. Gunna got the case, now we in that fight. Taking this to SCOTUS, shining that light. They ruined good homes, now we flipping that script. Time to bring them back, time to empty the clip. They labeled us monsters, called us unfit, but it's they paperwork dirty, all of it forged and flipped. How the fuck they selling babies to a bidder overseas? Then tell the fam you unworthy. Man, please, we got mamas in pain, daddies in tears. They breaking our hearts, been doing it for years. Now we riding with Gunner, and we got the proof. Sworn under oath, now it's time for truth. Trump got the team and the pen in his hand. He said bring them home, now that's the plan. You feds been hiding, but it's over now. We moving like an army, and we ain't bowing down. Fuck CPS, they ain't saving shit. Just a system full of snakes getting rich off kids. We see through the cap, we done taken a hit. Now it's off of Davis popping, and we loaded the clip. Gunna got the case, now we in that fight. Taking this to SCOTUS, shining that light. They ruined good homes, now we flipping that script. Time to bring them back, time to empty the clip. They ain't gods, they ain't law, they just people, corrupt people. And when the people rise, ain't no system safe. The Chi-Town, it's the movement. We gunning for CPS, and we coming heavy. Yeah. Wait.
Hey. Who are we going to piss off today? Hey guys, I'm your host Gunner. Welcome to Gunning for CPS. This is our weekly edition. We've got a lot of great things to show. This one is there's a lot going on right now. One, yes, Ukraine did take and send drones over and took out a third of the fleet in Russia, and Russia has responded with a missile strike directly on Kiev in the Ukraine. One, I'm glad we pulled out of there. I don't believe it's our fight. This is something that's gone back and forth. But we also know that part of Ukraine was also a place for money laundering that was exposed, as well as child trafficking that was well known. So we've got a lot of things to cover tonight. One, we're gonna share this right here. We're gonna talk briefly about this, but we've got a lot to cover. And let's see what we got here tonight. We're gonna start off with fruit from a poisonous tree. Okay, and I'm gonna jump down here, and we're gonna maximize this here. Now, fruit from a poisonous tree. A lot of people have asked, what is fruit from a poisonous tree? Fruit from a poisonous tree says that if you commit a crime or a constitutional rights violation, okay, that everything after that is called fruit from a poisonous tree. So if they've entered your house with no warrant, no court order, nothing there, no imminent danger as dictated by the federal courts, not according to state statute, because here's the thing. States can't make laws. The only people that can make laws, and I'm allowed to hear, well, you've broken a state law. You've broken a state law. There is no such thing. No, there's not. Because only Congress has the ability to make laws. Only states can have statutes and codes. So when they commit a constitutional rights violation, we'll go through the thing here, violated rights, okay? Statute overreach. In other words, they have gone beyond the duty of their job or anything else. And, well, I have an investigation to do. I have this to do. This is my job. I have to come into your home. I have to do this. I have to do this. And you have to let me in. That's part of my job and everything. No, the Constitution is very, very specific within the Fourth Amendment that you must have a court order or a warrant to enter a home or imminent danger when it comes on that. And it's defined within the federal courts of life threatening. In other words, there's a gun to somebody's head or something's getting ready to happen that will cause loss of life or dramatic injury. In other words, and here's the other part that they don't tell you. It's called curtilage. A lot of people don't know about curtilage. Curtilage is the area surrounding the area of your house. And even your vehicle. So they're not allowed to come into your house and start peeking in your windows and all this other stuff. And they have to respect what's called the curtilage, and that is federal case law. So they have to have a proper warrant. And here's the other issue that's been brought up a lot. Well, they did have a warrant, and it was done by the family court judge. That is an illegal warrant. Okay. I'm going to minimize this here so you can see me. it's not a legal warrant, because a legal warrant has to be done by an Article 3 judge. Your family court judges are Article 1. So if a judge has signed that and put that on there, that judge has then, from a poisonous tree, we can turn around and look at this once again. And hello, everybody in the audience. Thanks for joining us. That's a violation of oath. That's a due process violation. That judge or magistrate does not have the power to enter in there. Now, you guys have seen that posted where we've done the Article 1, Article 3, and gone through all that stuff. If not, go to our news page. You guys can see that on there, as well as probably my other page if you scroll back through. And it talks about the different processes to where judges are and magistrates are overstepping. In other words, violating their oath, saying that they have power that they don't have. That's a statutory outreach. Now, unlawful detention, that's something saying, hey, I'm going to hold you, or I'm going to wrap you up in court. That's unlawful detention. Due process violation. You are required. That was the case, SEC versus Jarsky. And if you'll notice that even President Trump quoted SEC versus Jarsky. Verbal warrants are not a thing. They do not exist, Jennifer. And we can address that too. Well, I've got this and I've got this. Digital, nothing. No. They must have a piece of paper in their hand to hand you. Okay? So if they don't have that piece of paper and say, look, we have a warrant. Here is the judge's signature, not auto pen. Remember, we've covered that. You trust me, we've covered that in our nation. No auto pen. And it has to have the stamp of the court clerk and the court clerk's signature. A court clerk cannot issue a warrant. That is that is operating outside what they are meant to do. Even if a judge gives them an order to, that is illegal. So we'll go back to this here. Statutory unlawful arrest. So they were arresting you or this or that, or hey, you've done this or that. Well, here's the other problem. You're not supposed to be arrested. It is required that if something has happened to you, you are to be brought immediately before the magistrate, not arrested or detained. That's unlawful detainment. They must take and put you in front of the magistrate and testify before the magistrate. This is what we took into account of this, that. Then the magistrate will say, okay, you're good to go. Now we can arrest them. And that. See, that's the whole thing that everybody's, even the police officers and everything else that have been mistrained or not trained properly on constitutional rights. And you got to really pay attention, because a lot of people, look at things and say, well, did the judge sign this? Did that person? And once again, you can challenge the signature of the judge if you go and you say, well, I'd like to look at the judge's signature compared to other documents, or say you get a document later and then you look at it and you go, oh, wait, that signature doesn't match the warrant. Now we have a discrepancy. And that's where you can take and challenge everything in there, because once again, an unlawful order is not to be followed. It's null and void. So this was a good illustration. I thought you guys would really appreciate this here. And then you're talking about lack of jurisdiction. Well, any case, Article 3, Section 2, Clause 2 of the Constitution specifically says that when the state is a party in a case, in other words, you versus the state, that the Supreme Court has original jurisdiction. And under the Federalist Papers, that is the discussion that was happening among the founding fathers of why we have what we have, saying that would eliminate the bias of the state to make sure you went to a federal court. So they're doing all this illegal shit, and people say, well, how are they doing it? How are they going to win? Why? Because we're allowing it. And most of the states that are getting away with it the most are the same ones that are taking away your gun rights, your Second Amendment. They want to restrict it. Why? Because they know if we, the people, are armed, as the Constitution says, when this stuff happens, it's going to overturn. Now, there's a story in Tennessee of a little town that there was actually the local government, if you will, got so corrupt with the local businesses and everything else that the people actually went in armed with their shotguns and overthrew not the government, but they're elected and appointed officials. And it's absolutely crazy that people don't do that or know their rights. Why? Because the Department of Education has been in on this. This has been against all of us. And that's where fruit from a poisonous tree comes in. And that's what it's saying, that it's not that. So you now have a right to fight that in the upper courts. And a lot of people say, well, there's Rooker versus Feldman. Rooker versus Feldman does not apply to constitutional rights violation. That's why we're having you do the affidavit, and it's within the bot because it specifically focuses in on constitutional rights violations. If you move outside that spectrum, yes, they're going to hit you with Rooker versus Feldman, which is why in my case, or in Sharon and I's case, which you'll see that's under Beauty versus Ashes, I'm sorry, Beauty in Ashes, in the comments there, that is Sharon. She has her show tomorrow night, debuting tomorrow night at 9 o'clock. So guys, make sure you check out the YouTube channel and check out, she has her own YouTube channel on there. You can see it there. I believe she set up a couple other things, but I encourage you to go look at those. That's one of our new shows. And then we have a couple other shows that are starting out. Chris is, I want to say, redacted, and sorry, you'll have to give me. But I'll tell you what, how about we just take, and we're going to bring out Chris and Danielle. And
What's up?
good. All right, get the other part, Chris.
Redacted and reckoned.
Redacted and what?
No, reckon.
Reckoned, yeah. Like the reckoning. Reduction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Chris is, we're working on getting Chris's show uploaded and getting her slot. And look, there's one of the kids right there. Say hi. Hi.
Hey, kiddo.
Right there.
Hey.
Right there's the
Hey,
reason
baby
we're all doing
girl.
this, guys. So,
Yeah, hi, can you
and
wait?
Hi.
fruit from a
Hi.
poisonous tree. Hi. So, Chris,
Hi.
we probably want to put her off to the side for the next part of this segment.
Yep, I know. Time to get there. Saying
So,
bye. Bye.
bye
Okay,
bye.
baby. Bye bye.
Let me know when you're ready. I'll close this out for your second, Chris, and bring it back in. Okay. Okay, go ahead and put her down, and then we'll go from there. So we're talking about this fruit from a poisonous tree.
Hey,
That
John.
a lot of people don't realize that a lot of this stuff over here is all this stuff that they've been doing is unconstitutional, and that's what they're calling them out for. And we've got to get together and say, we're not going to take this stuff anymore. And that's where you have to stand up, know your rights, and understand these magistrates and these judges and start holding them accountable, because you got to understand the evidence. Now Danielle here, Danielle's seen some.
Hi, Jennifer. Sorry. She's saying bye.
And so you've got seen some of the evidence and everything. We're talking, not in our case, we're talking about treason and sedition. We're talking about evidence filed on the state of Tennessee and bringing in. They said, well, what's that got to do with the rest of all the other states? Because we're going to prove that the state of Tennessee is part of a national child trafficking ring.
Right.
Why? Because the same stuff that's happening in Tennessee and the paperwork and all the other things that we're proving in our case, we have the evidence for all 50 states.
All 50 states. Right.
So all of them are included.
Yep.
So I hope that answers a lot of questions. And there's been some things where somebody said something about stuff that's notarized or it has a certain word. I know that's come up on TikTok. There's a reason we want you to have those things notarized, and there's a certain reason why. Because you can now use that thing that it fills out as a starter template for your own federal case under civil rights violations. That's why you are merely, when you're sending in your affidavits, are victims' affidavits of saying this happened to me. It has nothing to do with no, it's not a class action or anything like that. We're setting this up so you can empower yourself and take your own case right to the federal courtroom and said, my constitutional rights were violated. Now, here's the other thing. Because this case involves all 50 states, there's something very unique, an opportunity that's going to happen with this. Okay, guys? And what that's going to be, oh boy, is going to be this. No state will ever have jurisdiction over you for the rest of your life, because you were part of a case that included all 50 states committing treason and sedition to traffic children and train people using your state tax dollars and Title 4E funding to commit constitutional rights violations. What does that mean? No state will ever have jurisdiction. Well, what do I do then? Well, that's why we're talking to an extra special friend. I think Darren's got one, and we've got one too with April Lejeune. Okay. April Lejeune, and people say, well, I don't believe all this, things with this. No, we're talking about you become a federal free citizen, and it's not a joke. It's a real thing. And so you have to get to say, well, you're going to have those private. No, your plates you get when you go through April's and you do it legit, you end up getting your plates or Department of Transportation directly as a private citizen. You no longer have a license. You use your passport and you get an international driver's license and motorcycles license. Yes, why?
Explain that a little bit deeper.
Well, that's because you're going against them. They no longer have jurisdiction over you. You are part of a case that is testifying against all 50 states. And because you do that under the Federal Witness Protection Program, anything after that is considered retaliation. Wow. Now, big difference, isn't it, guys? I'm free. I can now live under the Constitution, those statute codes and everything else and this, that, unless you're doing things commercially and you have to have that license, like for a trucker, or if you're doing Uber or Lyft. Yes, those are commercial things that you have to have a state license, or to go in and operate within that state commercially. But you become free. They can't do anything to you for the rest of your life being a witness for this. So it sets us free. I believe the noise out there is Danielle's got something with her mic that's going on. She's got some ambient noise or something. Sorry, Andrew.
I'm muted.
I know, but you're getting some, when you do talk, it kind of does something with the fan or something, maybe. I don't know. But there's Chris. Now.
Is that better?
Yeah, much, much better. So that's what we're trying to tell you guys when you're turning these things in, and we are working on that letter. Trust me, they have been bombarding all of us. I mean, Chris can tell you, Danielle, myself, and everything else. They are constantly do this. Lewis, that's when you get with April, because here's the thing: she can teach you how to unplug and do it legally through all the channels and getting all your letters and everything else with that stuff. Well, if you're Robert Ellis, if you're using real estate and you're using your vehicle for business, yes, you will have to have a license. Now, the passport and international driver's license can substitute for that, but some states are particular and you'll have to look at your state laws for that. That's a little bit different. But what we're talking about is truly being free and not having those chains on you at all. We're talking about no property taxes, no taxes. Your state income tax, gone, because that is a form of intimidation or coercion. Absolutely. And it's not, and it's not a joke. And April is one of the best people that are out there. Chris, I think, is popping in and out on us. Or nope, popped out. But what we're talking about is getting free.
Sorry, does it still sound like that, Gunner? Because if it is, I need to turn my dehumidifier off.
No, you're better. You're better okay. There. I can tell it different. I don't know what that vacuum sound is. I mean, I can move my mic a little bit closer, but
can you hear it? The vacuum sound right now?
I can't.
Okay.
But guys, but like I'm saying, a lot of this is where everybody's going, oh my gosh, no, guys, we're walking you through this one step at a time for a reason, and we're doing this in a way so you can see the transparency of what we're doing, how we're doing it, and how all of this is, unplugging for that. How do you get your refund taxes? Guess what? You don't. You don't. You don't have to pay them no more. It unplugs you from the whole system. Because remember, taxes are voluntary. That's already been ruled on. And you're learning this whole new process of what it's like to come out under the cabal, the corporation, the deep state, and live just under the Constitution, like we're supposed to. All this other stuff was not meant to be. That's what we're unplugging. Well, hopefully Chris can get a little bit. She's having some connectivity issues. Guys, one thing I've got to tell you, we're getting ready to go in. We're going to transfer off of the fruit from the poisonous tree. I hope, like I said, a lot of this we're talking about is the transfer of what the administration's trying to do is move us back to the Constitution where we're supposed to be. Welcome to the reckoning, people. It's a real thing. And everybody says, well, how do I know that your case is? Listen, I've already turned over evidence to the FBI, working with the FBI, DOJ, all the rest of them. I did that over a year ago. Why do you think they're doing the things that they're doing? Congratulations. Welcome to the Whistleblower channel. Yeah, it's real. Chris, let's try to put you back on.
There's more people, stuff
Okay.
like coming
Now-
on board that aren't part of like the show or something. They haven't never watched. I've got friends reaching out to me that are like in Georgia that are hearing about it. They send me the screenshot of the video.
Danielle, same thing with me.
Yeah, Dr. Death, let me tell you something. It's not that you get rid of your Social Security. You end up, that's a dead name. It's all in caps. Yes, that is true, because that's a legal thing. You just set it up as you take control of it. So now you get the money that they were making off you, the government was, you get those interests. You'd still claim it, but now it goes into a trust. You turn it into a trust. April, when it comes to that point, I'm just giving you a foreshadow. Let's not get too tied up with that tonight. I'm foreshadowing the things to come. We have the experts coming in, okay? We've got several. They know what they're doing. They are living this and have been living it for over a decade. Police don't bother with them. Law enforcement don't bother with them. They are 100% free. They don't get pulled over. They don't get harassed. They don't do with none of that stuff. All of it's like that. And you still have control of that. The difference is now you're going to find out what it takes to operate as a free person. See, as you and I, as individual private citizens, we are meant to do business. When we do business, we're supposed to get an FEIN number or like a business. And actually you can have up to 3, to do that. And then you operate as a business when you're dealing with the government or with other businesses, as it should have been. We're going to have to relearn some stuff, but we're going to do it together on all of our shows. Okay. That's the point of plugging into this network, is getting that information, getting that knowledge, and realizing what is going on and realizing how much we've been lied to, and realize how much money is actually out there. It's crazy. Now, guys, I'm getting ready to share something on this. Yeah, go ahead.
Can I add to that? Because another thing that we are going to start learning, and I think, Gunnar, you're in agreement with me that this is important, like Barbara, and everything that the people that have gone through this, that to this day, there's a woman that I know, and I know, Gunnar, you reached out to her. She said she spoke to you. And she has a group of friends that she was actually part of the Lester Roloff ordeal in Texas, and was saved from there. Now, she has never been able to get her identity. She doesn't know what her name is. She has 2 social security numbers. And I think it's important for people to understand that you know, we're fighting for our kids, yet some people, the kids from back when, and it's
Yeah,
nothing has changed yet.
yeah,
You know, this is what's
no,
happening. And it's like we need to be sure that we prepare everybody. I mean, and I hopefully before you get into this situation, but you know, always be prepared to know how to get, you know, how to have contact with your family, how to make sure. I know with, you know, my stepdaughters that are, you know, getting guardianship with a traditional foster parent, you know, they know where we live and we will not move until they're 18 so they can
right.
know where to come home. But it's a sad thing, you know, they lose she doesn't even know her last name. And I looked deep into international child trafficking, and you know, it's been going on from the beginning. You know, there
Now,
was
and guys, and Celia, if you're talking about threatening your kids to no quarter or anything else, get your affidavit in, because when we get this letter done, the kids come home. The kids come home because that is called federal witness tampering. Look up, if all of you want to do research on, look up Federal Witness Protection Act and what it says and how powerful it is. You understand, I don't need these things for my case. I can go and establish the case law and let you guys, hey, do it all on your own. Sharon and I talked about this. We said, you know what? We have a unique opportunity to set people free. Even if your kids are in foster care or adopted out, you are becoming a witness for us against the state and all of your state's actors for treason and sedition. Bottom line, that's not a joke. And it's not. And we've got the evidence. Now, we're going to transfer. Chris touched on international travel. And most of you, we're going to share this. Now, listen, I've got a friend, I've got several contacts internationally. This next picture that I'm going to put up is going to be warned. You are forewarned. It will shock you. It will terrorize you. It will mess with you hard. But you need to see this. And it's not a joke. Now, guys, I'm preparing you. I'm telling you once again, this is not for the faint of heart. If you have issues, you need to turn aside or come back later. This is real. Now, there's our screen. All right, guys. That was sent to me on another Epstein Island. That was
can you
another
zoom in on that?
island.
Because I couldn't even really see it.
Okay. Another, let me change the format here. This is happening.
I did see that. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Another
Where is that at?
Epstein type island. Well, we can't discuss that
Oh,
because
I
they're
know. Okay.
still internationally declassifying this. This came
Interesting.
from a very reputable source. They had
Wait,
just
so
busted another island. But
this
listen, it's not just, and listen, I'm not going to keep it up anymore because it's a lot. Guys, that's when it gets real. But this island, it's not just child trafficking. They were harvesting the organs of children. Now, here's the other thing. Those pictures are, I got several. I can't even show you the rest. You couldn't, I wouldn't do that to you. It would completely traumatize you for the rest of your life. But I can also tell you pictures like that there are foster homes here in this fucking United States that same shit's going on. There are police records throughout this country of the exact same thing.
These facilities, they're doing that in them.
It's not just, it's foster homes too.
Residential treatment facilities where the kids are isolated real bad, like my son where he was.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's
Chris has been doing some digging. We've got some names of some companies that are doing this and shipping kids back and forth, American citizens, to other countries.
Yeah. I mean, and it seems to be, you know, like I said, history repeats itself. It seems to be something that happened and they you know, they did, at least I believe, end it for a while, a little bit, not very long, and now it's all happening again. But there's now been some changes
Mm.
where there are certain countries that will not do adoptions with the United States because they know that we are lying to
Yes,
the mothers. We are not being honest. We are taking these kids illegally.
unconstitutionally. Listen,
Yes,
this is how they're doing it. They're coming in, no warrant, no court order, just like she was saying before. They want to threaten my kids. And you know what? The number one asset out there is a blonde haired, blue eyed female.
yes, right now it is. And mixed race is also.
And mixed races as well.
Mhm.
This is real. You wonder why we're going for abolishment of this system and for them to be held accountable for treason and sedition. And I mean treason and sedition that they don't go to a court. You have no rights. You go to a military tribunal. That's why we listed the case under treason and sedition, that the judges, the magistrates, the CPS
Yes,
workers, the foster homes, all these people, when this goes
Jennifer, they
down,
are.
they're setting it up, and that's exactly what they're doing. Why do you think the president, when they had the prison in Venezuela, y'all remember that? Talking to the president down there in Venezuela? Hey, hey, we like your prison system and everything else. Why? Because if you're accused of treason and sedition, you cannot serve your time on American soil.
To
It
Jennifer,
is
she
coming.
is correct. They are, Gunnar and I spoke about that earlier. They are doing chemical testing. I mean, all of that.
Drug
I mean,
testing, chemical warfare
yeah.
weapons, bioengineered weapons. They are testing on these children.
There's an adrenochrome, you know, people in Hollywood, I mean, and not some that are in Hollywood, but so what adrenochrome is supposed to do is have something in it that it keeps you looking young. And so a lot of like actresses, actors,
Yeah, it's
like
found in
famous
the
people,
pineal
yeah,
gland in the brain.
they pay
And
a lot
yeah,
of
they
money for
scare
it.
the shit out of them and really,
Look at
uh,
the facial features on my son compared
yeah.
to 6 months to a year. Yes, they are testing on these kids.
You did
My
say
son
that.
is living proof of that. You can
And even
tell.
RFK.
Yeah.
RFK brought that out. Drug
Yes,
testing
he
again.
did. Yep.
You want to go back?
So
Go watch the video on my channel, guys. It says how CPS started and its foundations that spun off of the same organizations that were running the sanitariums. And if you don't know about sanitariums, and it even goes back to, even before that in the creation during World War I and World War II, and through all of them, even into the Catholic, centers in the homes and this.
Oh
And
my
if you'll
God.
notice, all of these religions now, guys, you better look at your major religions. That goes for the Baptists, that goes for the Catholic, the Lutheran, the Church of God people, all of them. They all run a home somewhere in some state.
We're supposed to shut that down. So,
Yet,
Gunnar,
how
I just
it's
heard
crazy.
something, and I'm just gonna spread it out there. So my mom just called and said that my son, which Aunt Martha, if anybody knows anything about some of the corruption that's been going on in Illinois, Aunt Martha's is one of them.
Aunt Martha's, yeah.
And yes, and Pritzker, yeah, and it's connected to the director, the ex-director, Mark Smith. It was a horrible facility for girls. But for some reason, my mom just said that my son has an appointment with Aunt Martha's tomorrow.
Oh.
And I've been exposing Aunt Martha's.
Yeah, that would be a conflict of interest. Yeah, we're trying to get
But
these
they
things
were supposed
done.
to shut down Aunt Martha's.
Listen, let me tell you the thing, and this is the one thing Chris and I had a long discussion on.
Jeez.
When your state subcontracts, like Illinois does, and several other states, that they subcontract instead of having state workers that are CPS workers, and they work for the state. All they do when they get caught is shut it down, disperse the people into other parts of the state that work for the same company, open a new one, because it's one company that has several umbrellas.
It's an umbrella,
Okay,
yeah.
is the way it works. So they shut down one, rename it, relocate it, or
change the
bring in
name.
another one and change the personnel, but it's the same damn game. It's the
And
same shit.
when you look deep into it, you see that the ones that have actually are the most corrupt are the ones that have been around. They've actually been around for the most part since the beginning, and they just changed their names.
New
And I mean, they
York,
went from like
State, Illinois,
there was
Texas.
well, yes, they're all, but there was like, for instance, One Hope United was Children's Home, um, Children's Home and Society or something like that. It
Right.
was then it was Christian Baptist before that.
There it is.
And right, exactly. There you go. And then it became more Catholic.
What are you supporting here, guys, when you're going into organized religion institutions? Believe it or not, you're supporting child trafficking. Whether
Yeah.
you know it or not, and you wave the holier than thou thing all you want, you better look into the organization that you're believing in and what's actually going on. Now, they'll wave the flag like CPS does. We're here to help the children. We're here to do this. Do you see what they're doing? And here's the other thing that's happening now in the news. Have you noticed, guys? One thing that's real cute. This is funny, isn't it? Who's getting popped the most with criminal, accused of criminal acts and getting busted and actual felonies and stuff like that? Teachers, worship leaders, coaches, all the people want to be around the children. Let me tell you something. I love my kids, and I think I can speak all the rest of them, but at the same time, there's a reason us adults that have got kids and this and that say, fuck them kids. Why? I love my kids, but they're a pain in the damn ass. Every single one of them.
Mm.
I love them, but at the same time, I sure as hell don't want to take and go out there and interact with everybody else's kids. Listen, now my daughters played soccer and this and that. And yes, I was an AYSO referee because I wanted some distance and everything else about of right and wrong. Just that simple. Call it out. I don't want to be around them. I was kind of voluntold we need help to do this stuff. But there are people that seek children and access to children. And the teachers especially that are getting popped today in public education.
Well, then
wow.
Let's make sure we're saying it's not every teacher. It's not every.
No, I'm not saying that.
Right. I know. I just don't want people to think
there are good teachers.
And
we had a
we've
teacher,
got to remember
that some of them don't even know, and they have to tell when they report it. Like he came into my live one night and he said I was the first person he's ever seen or heard that hated DFCS or CPS. I said, and that's when it led on, and y'all have to go watch it. And he actually opened up and told us some things, and we learned a lot. They have to tell their admin, and their admin's the one that reports it. They don't actually go straight to.
And listen. The other thing is even here in Blount County, Tennessee, there's a huge thing going up here in Blount County, Tennessee, where they covered up a teacher and just moved them around the different school systems and was abusing kids, like over 80 kids for like 15, 20 years. And the school did nothing. They hid it. I mean, that's some disgusting stuff. You're trusting these people to do this stuff, and they're not educating them. They're not teaching them about their rights. And half of you out there that go and say, well, how come I don't know to do this? Or how come I don't? Why? Because you weren't taught it. It was meant to hold it back from you.
What about the ones that are in juvenile detention centers and juvenile facilities? I know in Illinois, and I'm sure in other states, there's a lot of lawsuits going on right now.
Well, didn't what was it in Illinois? Was it the juvenile facility or
it's all just juvenile got busted? Facilities.
No, that one that just made the news, because the Tennessee just made the news too for their detention centers and juvie centers and stuff like that. For
Illinois, we only have the only juvenile actual detention center is I mean they have one in every county. They have the juvenile, where you could be it's like a jail, but we're a prison per se, where they go for an extended period of time. That's the only one they have is in Cook County. And there's been a lot of, I mean, they're also giving compensation and doing lawsuits against, like, you know, people that have been to prison, like
Yeah.
to all the different prisons and jails and stuff. But the juveniles, now think about the juveniles that are in these juvenile facilities. I mean, some parents think that, you know,
6 months. James got it in there for the case. 20 years of touching children and got a 6 months deferred sentence. Not just that, at the end of the 6 months, his case is wiped
oh
clean.
yeah, oh, for in Blount County, Tennessee.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah, I know.
Yeah.
And he did not lose his teacher's license, and
Nope.
he's not going to have anything on his record that says he can't be around kids. When look at us, you know, we have simply, you know, neglect charges, which shouldn't even be there. And now we can't even coach a sports team for our kids.
Yeah.
We can't be a part of any of that because
But
we
listen,
look.
but see, even RFK has gone to this, that we got to look at the bigger picture too. One, look at the food and the chemicals that have been getting into our bodies, into our system, and everything else that is causing this.
Look
That's
at my
causing
look at the kids
autoimmune.
that
This
with the autism stuff.
autism,
Like my
Yeah,
son.
my son was
ADHD.
one of those victims. He was fine, and
Yep.
we laid him down one night. And he woke up and he was like, he went straight back to baby mode. And there's a lot of parents that their kids.
I
that
think
happened.
vaccinations that does that. That happened with
I mean,
Dominic too, my son.
RFK like hit it right on the head. I mean, the way he described it was straight up what it was, and I said, "Wow." And I didn't even know. I was like, maybe it was just something. No, it could have. My son was fine. He was up to chart and everything. There was
They
nothing.
are experimenting on kids with drugs, because here's the thing: when you lose your kid to the system, guess who becomes the parent? The
Well,
state does. The
and
state
then-
can then give permission to administer those medications, even if they're
And it's so
experimental.
bad with them that, like with my son, they shouldn't have ever touched him. There was a voluntary agreement between me and my mother, and they should have never touched my child.
Right.
Oh,
And they
Jennifer.
totally,
Jennifer made a thing. Jennifer says she had her period starting at 9 because of the hormones in your food.
Yeah,
kids-
that's happening. Girls are getting
lot
their
more
period
often.
younger and younger now.
We started noticing that. Why? Because you had girls in middle school that all of a sudden, bloop,
Well,
that ain't
I mean,
supposed
but
to
that
happen.
happens- hold on. But that happens before you actually get your period sometimes, because I know that that's
My
how it was for me,
girl-
at least.
No,
girls
I mean, but
were
the
on-
hormones, you notice the
Yes,
changes
there's a
in
hormonal
kids
change.
in middle school, because you know who gives the food for the middle school?
But it's happening to boys too.
Department of Defense. Who has your contracts for
I
your
was
food?
fully developed.
Department
Like, my
of
girl
Defense,
went
DOD.
8th grade,
Yeah.
and I started
I
when I
was
was
too.
8 years old. I was
I
8
was
years old
too.
when I started my monthly.
Yeah. And
Oh, geez.
Andrew, listen, we're working on that letter, but listen, and Sharon will tell you, as well as everybody else, Darren and I are working on this,
Yes, I'm
researching
in
and
premarital.
everything else. We are going to make sure this thing is bulletproof. No way they get around it, enough to where you hand the letter and go, here's my copy, you make a copy, serve it to the court, serve it to CPS, do this, and it's going to call them out. You are actively participating in treason and sedition and kidnapping children and trafficking children. You'll be called out. This is not a joke with this case. We're not playing with this case at all. Not one bit. So when we say we're doing this, we're going to do it right. Okay, Jen. Okay. I keep forgetting that. You'll have to forgive me. You're going to have to understand, we're walking with transparency with you, saying, this is where we're at and this is what we're doing, but understand it takes time to do it. Now, you'll even look at our filing. If you guys go on Pacer and everything else, we did something uniquely different. We didn't go after just the actors, the caseworkers, the judges, and this and that. We went after the entire state. The rest are actors following what the state has told them to do. That's why they're scared shitless. And people were talking about this reckoning. I had a conversation this week with somebody that was like in New Hampshire and got into a meeting with a bunch of politicians. And when they heard about the reckoning and everything else and stuff like that are going through it, they're like, we got to end this call. Oh my gosh, they know this is coming. They know we're coming for them. They know the Trump administration's coming for them. That this is just the civil side of what's getting ready to happen on the criminal side. They're just cleaning up everything and all the courts on the federal level and everything else. So when you file your case, you actually have a decent judge. Amazing how this works together.
But I think, and I don't know, Gunnar, if we've decided yet, but I think so. For everybody else that's wondering, that are asking those questions about, having the exhibits with their affidavits, this and that. Now, that would be if you were filing your own case in your
Yes.
own state.
You're
And
just doing a victim's affidavit is
right.
what this
And,
is. But
by all means, if people would like to file cases in their own state, but be very
we
careful.
encourage that. Well,
Yeah,
and we
we
encourage that.
absolutely will. And
Yeah.
I think on, one of the shows, part of the show, at least mine, I would like, that's something I want to discuss. And that's when I would like Gunnar and I or whoever, we can discuss how to do that. But one thing also, everybody needs to make sure that they get their case
And
file
well,
and they get all their paperwork.
The form that ADA bot is what it's legally called. The ADA bot sifts through your conversation and just pulls out constitutional rights violations, so you stay in the lane.
So,
now, the form that fills out, you can use that form as a starter template for your own federal case.
okay, now, and
That's the
Danielle,
beauty of
maybe
it.
you can help me because I'm in the works of creating one that will actually do the making the case and making sure it
I've got one that's
bypasses.
already set up for making the case.
I do too, but I want to make sure
Yeah.
that it's
Now,
like perfect. So maybe we could work on that because there's a lot to these cases. And Gunnar,
Yeah.
I give Gunnar so much respect and so much, appreciation because you know what? For him to do this, get it passed and get it accepted in the Supreme Court is not easy. And I'm just going to say that. So
huge shout out to all of our team out there, the CPS Punisher. I think he's dwelling backstage. A lot of others that have gotten there, like I said, early in the stages of our stuff. We've worked with Malibu Dallas with some things and a couple other people that we've pulled from a lot of people that have gotten us to the point where we are. But understanding this, the only person going in that courtroom to question people and to cross-examine and to enter evidence and everything else in that case is just going to be, as of right now, just me and Sharon. Just me and Sharon, unless we have if we find somebody for the kids that we can trust, which we're hoping somebody's going to get a few things taken care of. I'm just saying.
John, your question, aren't we supposed to exhaust all state options? So, okay, yes, that is true. However, you can bypass it. There is case law. There is ways that you can bypass it. And that's something that I will be discussing. I will be going over in the ways to do that. And actually the bot that I have created can actually show you how to do that and how your case then can bypass it.
Well, now, and the easiest way to bypass it is something the state has no jurisdiction over: constitutional rights violations.
Well, yeah, but sometimes
ain't that's automatic? I mean, that's.
But here's the thing: if the way it should be going, is and here's the thing: if you have a constitutional rights violation in your state court, and you verbalize that to the court is supposed to, it's lost all jurisdiction completely, because then it requires you to do a change of jurisdiction to the federal court, and there's a form on there for under the civil rights court under question that you check off in the box of your cover sheet that says we have a question. In other words, you would ask the question: if constitutional rights violation, give you an example, if somebody came into my home without a warrant, court order, or extenuating circumstances, is that a Fourth Amendment violation? And then you can even quote case law of saying, according to what we interpret from this federal case law, that yes, it is. And then you ask the judge, now, does fruit from a poisonous tree take and apply to this case if that has happened? And then the federal court, of course, is going to come back down and say, well, yes, if you've had a Fourth Amendment violation, which, we're saying, yes, there is. And then it puts the burden on the state. Produce it.
Right. But
and here's the thing: if you have an open case and that's not been put on your evidence, That means they're falsifying evidence. Well, then why didn't you enter it in the state case? Now you got to answer another question. But you put the burden upon the state to prove there wasn't a Fourth Amendment violation, and they have to prove it.
But you have to make sure to put in your case that get everything into your state case before bringing it higher, is all I'm going to say, because you want to get everything put in your case and filed in your case so that it's there. You cannot, once you go, say you take it to an appeal, okay, let's just say you go to appellate court, you cannot add discovery after. It's whatever was there, that's what they go off of. They don't go off of any, you can't submit any new discovery. It's what was already there. So
Well,
you have to get everything.
Yeah, you can do that and fight that on certain things at the state level, but when you have a change of jurisdiction, that federal judge then has a choice.
Well, if you get federal, I mean.
Well, if you go under the question, you're doing a change of jurisdiction due to the fact the state does not have jurisdiction to, there's your excuse for going to the federal court.
Right.
The state can't rule on constitutional rights issues.
But all
Therefore,
I'm
it's
trying
a
to say is
change of jurisdiction on the form. And then the judge will take that. Now, the federal judge has the option to hold on to it, or the judge can just write an order and kick it back down to the state, which generally happens. And now that judge.
This is what I'm trying to get at, because I don't want people to get their hopes up thinking that, I mean, it's not easy to get a case heard in the Supreme Court and to get a judge to sign off on it. And I mean, there's a lot that goes into it, and a lot that everything has to be very meticulous. They will find every reason to not hear the case. So
once again, the lower courts are not even acknowledging void aborigine, and they're supposed to.
I know, and we all know
that's
that.
How corrupt. They'll even go on. Like, it was brought up in my case in the courtroom to both the magistrate and the Judge Harrison, and guess what? They just went on like nothing happened. And that is so common in all the cases across the country. Illegal entry. Are they going to deal with it? No. They're going to keep going. Well, that doesn't work in my case. You know what the magistrate told me? We don't deal with constitutional issues in this courtroom, and proceeded to go forward.
Yeah, that's what I was told as well. Even though
that
right outside the courtroom, but right outside the courtroom had the Bill of Rights, and like literally posted right outside the courtroom. So, yeah.
This is what Trump administration is talking about, the administrative law judges not following the Constitution. It's bullshit. They are stealing and kidnapping kids and not following the Constitution. When all of this comes out, it's over. Because what are you going to do with a bunch of people that the states have no jurisdiction over when you have the affidavit signed in and everything else? Guess what? You can't touch me. Federal witness tamper. Call the feds. I'm calling DOJ. And you know how much, Chris, you know as well as I do. You come down there, or Danielle, the rest of them. What happens when the feds come to town? Everybody's butthole fucking puckers, about like this at the state. You couldn't even squeeze a fart out. They don't like it.
Nope.
They hate it. They fear it.
You know what started the FBI?
Yeah.
What?
There you go. Here's my question. What jurisdiction, I know I'm the writer of this, but what jurisdiction is actually being challenged here? Like, what level of jurisdiction are we challenging? That way people know what they're going for. Because there's certain types of jurisdiction. What are we challenging? Are we challenging original jurisdiction, subject matter jurisdiction? Like, what is the challenge?
Well, originally it would be subject matter jurisdiction over a constitutional issue to actually file, because no state has the right to take and do it. But then original jurisdiction, Article 3, Clause 2, subsection 2, specifically says any case involving where the state is a party, that the Supreme Court has original jurisdiction. Then why am I in a state courtroom if you don't have jurisdiction to adjudicate? Because it's me against the state, according to the paperwork, and under the Constitution, specifically says within that, you're not to have that trial in state court. It's supposed to be in federal court. It's very clear in the Constitution.
See, I was gonna approach mine in a different.
So that would be exclusive jurisdiction, then, which is only one
Mhm.
specific court has the authority to hear a particular case. Right. So
Absolutely.
that's where we're going. All right. So that's where people need to know what they're talking about when they're saying that
Right.
they're filing for a jurisdiction. They need to know what they are talking about.
Yeah.
And since that's the case, it could also be limited jurisdiction, which is a court's authority is restricted to a specific type or amount of dispute. So there's that way too that you could explain that, because the lower courts don't have that. But I don't know if
Right.
anybody saw Naylor's video today on the supremacy clause, but that pretty much was damn awesome, and people really need to start firing that. And I wish that we would have put some more of that in this, because that point blank just says, you know what? If it's the if you don't have the Constitution in it, then go pound sand. It means nothing. You're not.
Hey,
That's
that's
it.
okay.
Done.
We get an amended filing here as soon as we get past mediation.
Yeah,
So
we definitely are going to do
oops.
some we're going to do some reestablishing for that amended filing. That's
Yeah.
for damn sure, because that will close it up. Because no lower court judge, it shouldn't even be an issue that we have to go to a different court for constitutional issues, because every lower court judge is supposed to rule with the Constitution. They're binded by oath, all of that stuff. And this is just ridiculous. This is ridiculous that we even have to do this, but we're doing it, and we're going to beat the shit out of these guys. CPS, we're coming for you.
Absolutely. Now, guys, we're going to kind of wrap up a few things. Chris, I'm going to get with probably you after the show. We've got some times and stuff like that, and we're going to get Chris geared up. I know Sharon's show tomorrow. Ashes in Beauty is premiering tomorrow night at 9:00 p.m. Chris, we're going to try and hurry up and get you on the schedule possibly for next week. But guys, this is why it's so important to connect with this whole network of shows we have here at the CPS Breaking News Network. Our show, Danielle's show, Brenda's show, Chris's show. We've got the late show and stuff like that. We're going through some rescheduling, replatforming. But guys, there's so much going on, and I look forward to Chris's show, because to be honest with you, she's got some really good stuff, especially the stuff that goes on in Chicago. Because here's the thing a lot of people don't know is that Chicago and New York City are one of the oldest, largest cities that has the most law on the books because of the mass amount of people within a congested area. And there was a lot of things that happened out. So there's a lot of things that may spawn, we'll say, in New York City, it'll spawn in New York City. If not, hey, here comes Chicago, because why? Chicago is going to take and do what Chicago does. But yeah, as far as going back to the FBI, yes, the FBI was created due to the fact that law enforcement could not take and cross state lines to basically chase criminals. That was done during the turn of the Prohibition era, to where a lot of people were a lot of stuff going on in Chicago. And what would they do? We're just going to run across the state line and say, you can't catch me. That's exactly. So the FBI was created to take down, and of course, there's, J. Edgar Hoover and everything else. They wanted to get that. And of course, the most that they could take and do, they ended up raiding Al Capone, like I said, in his bank and everybody. He had receipts for everything, so they had to give the money back. And a couple other, there was a lot of things in that history. But yeah, the FBI was basically created to enforce law enforcement and across state lines, because yes, at that time, the states had no autonomy. You could literally walk across the state line and go, and you know what I'm saying? And Chris knows what I'm talking about. Nope, can't touch me. I'm over here on the Indiana side, and they were well known for doing that in Northwest Indiana.
We still are. Yeah. If you don't have if even in counties or towns, I'm not their turf. They can't pull me over. I know that. That's just but I have a question, Gunnar. So with the case, because for jurisdiction. So original jurisdiction under Article 3, Section 2. Did you use
Clause
that?
2. Clause 2. Section 2, Clause 2.
Yeah, Clause 2, Section 2, right?
Yeah.
You use that one, right? Okay, because that's what I came up with. And then discretionary, and then certiorari, I always bunk that word, under 28 USC 1254-1. Did you use that one?
We've got a couple things. I don't remember exactly where it is. We've got some things in revision and stuff like that, because
so maybe
we wanted to get enough to get in without any hiccups. Once you're past the threshold and you're past the mediation part, then the real case happens. Because
You know,
that's when you go on the deadline for, you've got this date, so many weeks out from the court case, you have to have this in by. Yeah, you have so many weeks in the case before this is due. Your witness list, your turning in your findings and everything else, any evidence you want to use in the case, that has to be turned over and filed with the court. And the way it goes, it's pretty cool the way that the federal court does it. And I thought that was awesome, was due to the fact that when you file with the federal court, and I filed as indigent due to the fact of heart failure, disabled, it doesn't cost me anything. There's the beautiful thing. Everybody says, yeah, why? Because the biggest thing to do anything in federal case is the cost, a huge cost, especially getting people served. But when you look at this, you turn all this stuff into the federal court. The federal court then distributes it amongst the parties for you. That's so beautiful. So they can't say, well, I didn't get it from him. Well, funny, it's on the court record. Go look it up.
one thing I want to bring up, I just saw Trump got a case passed through SCOTUS. So that's something also that we can use. And the fact that he just got that passed and what that does under Scott. I don't know, people say different. Scottish, SCOTUS.
Well, yeah.
Well, AC, but that's conflicting decisions among lower courts.
Yeah.
That's gross departure from accepted norms of due process and recurring constitutional violations under guise of child welfare. So there's different ways you could do that, but because Trump did it and he just got that passed, well, that gave me
that's the beauty. Well, see, and that's the beauty too, Chris, is you can use anything, even if it's progressive in your case, until you file. So we get a final filing. So if there's a new case law or something that breaks through, yeah, we can absolutely use it 100%. Right. And so can you.
It's just a matter of finding out which one's going to work for your case specifically, which one's going to. And then
that's
you also have to look up case law in different districts. Like we're in Tennessee. I'm in the 7th district for, Supreme Court cases, whereas Gunner's in a different district. So it just depends. And each district is different. So some are a lot more strict with getting a case into the Supreme Court level. Like I think 7th district is very strict, but so there's different ways you have to do it, and it's very meticulous. So Gunner being able to do this, guys, I mean, hats off to him, because Gunner, Darren, everyone that was a part of making that happen. This is huge, because the fact that they were able to get it accepted, doing it like not on his own, but you know what I'm saying, on their own, they've helped us tremendously, because if the least comes out of this, it's going to be case law, and that case law is going to be able to be used in every single person's case. So that's the least that this is going to do, but we know it's going to do more. But hats off to you guys, because
and thank you guys for all your support, and that's why we're asking you guys, and check out our Facebook page, our news channel, and I know a lot of you follow me on my personal channel. Just make sure you keep with it, because we're asking for certain things. If you've got a caseworker that right now, we're asking anybody, especially in Tennessee, that knows a caseworker that has quit because of what they've seen, or they've turned on them because they've exposed what was going on. They saw what was going on, and they, hey, this is not right. Those are the kind of things we're looking for. And Christy, to understand dragging the case out, there's not a way you drag a federal case out. There's deadlines, and you have to meet them. Both sides have to meet them. You're required to meet them. If not, the judge don't give a shit. Your time's up. That's just how hardcore this is. There's no, you got to have an extreme thing to go before the judge and ask for leniency to push that date, or file something for a continuance of that certain area to allow that stuff to happen. So there's a lot that goes into this, and and this is something we all should be knowing, is our constitutional rights, and to be able to go into a federal courtroom and argue our case before a federal court. Every citizen should be able to do that. Every free person should be able to do that.
You're right, and I believe that they should make it easier for that, especially when Trump we'll see, maybe he will, being that he's if he had to pull a SCOTUS, how do you say the word? I don't know. Everybody says
SCOTUS.
SCOTUS. Okay. So
SCOTUS.
the fact that he pulled that, makes me think like maybe, I don't know. You have to read case law. Read, everybody. The best thing to do to find out how cases move forward, especially these types of cases, if any have moved forward in any which way, which they end up getting turned down eventually, unfortunately.
And listen, guys, those affidavits, old case, 10 years, 20 years old, still have constitutional rights violation. There is no statute of limitation for constitutional rights violations. Even 30 years ago, you can still go after them. 100% you can. Absolutely you can. This is a victim's impact, like I said, impact affidavit. This constitutional rights happened to me to steal my kids. It's just pretty cut and dry. I mean, and when it comes down to it, hopefully they will make it. But here's the thing. What are you going to do when the whole system is down? Now there's nothing left. You don't think they're going to make changes to make it easier to settle with people and all this other stuff once this is exposed and it's on the court record? Absolutely. See, they're allowing me to put it on the record. Why? Because it doesn't look good if just the administration does everything. The power is invested in what? We, the people, are the government.
Yeah. Sharon,
Hence the reckoning.
on TikTok. I just saw that she put that.
Some stuff. Well, guys, we're getting close to a little bit of our time.
I wanted to get more into international trafficking, but we'll do that.
Yeah, and check this out too, guys. Go watch that show on my YouTube channel. How CPS started. You're going to see a form in there or an actual report from the International Association of Down Syndrome. Okay, that report has all sorts of information on the sanitariums and tons of information in that one little clip on my channel. Guys, thanks for joining us. Check us out next week. Don't forget the rest of our network here. Go like and follow the pages. Go like and follow us on Facebook. Gunning for CPS. That's right. Everything's changed over to number 4. We're good to go.
Guys, subscribe, guys.
Keep up the fight. Keep up the hope, and the stuff is coming. The reckoning is here, and this is the We the People's case. Thanks again, guys. See you next time.
In the United States, CPS makes upwards of $3 billion per day on trafficking and selling our children. The corruption may start with the caseworker, but goes through the judicial system, passing the governor through the Senate and into the White House. The entire system has a hand in the business known as CPS.
Our children are stolen every minute of a 24-hour day. They are being robbed of their innocence, their trust, their happiness. As parents, we are isolated and betrayed by a government we trust. States are balancing budgets on kids' lives. Only 12% of the kids taken will be reunified. Title IV funding is being riveted with fraud.
We need to stop CPS and abolish CPS.com is leading the way. Join us.